So what I love this exercise because there's a lot of assumed knowledge that we have about the world. So it's a really, I love making people make sambusa who don't know how to make it. I love giving people, it's just bringing people to get, normally in a smaller group setting you'd have a bit more time and time to discuss it amongst yourselves. But I think that assumed, not so, you know, because that group, they all had it was slightly a triangular shape. But what I love about that, the word creative, Elizabeth said, it's people find ways to navigate the world. Through, you know, you guys didn't have the instructions, you guys hadn't made sambusa before, and you still managed to make a triangular shaped filled parcel. And I think that's something so amazing about the ability for human beings to find creative ways of navigating the world. And because this talks about Chile and empire, I want to take it back to this idea of navigating the world. So foods were a really important part of migration. You know, people have always migrated for all sorts of reasons. Food being a really fundamental one. And you know, we started off with Chile, which would have moved from Mexico or South America to be part of this global trade. And this building here, that Frida's design, references GMT time and the standardization of time, which happened around the 19th century or 1847, I think, and that standardization of time was rooted in empire. The British standardized time because they had the biggest empire in terms of land mass. They had the, you know, in terms of making it work efficiently, in terms of trading people, in terms of trading goods, it made sense to standardize time. So we are in London, 0. This is where time begins. Now that is a really interesting concept. The idea that you can arbitrarily have that much power to do that. And I think last year I wrote a paper on this kind of issue of food and empire, and you know, this kind of, while I was searching out for my heritage. And there is an amazing quote by Stuart Hall which encapsulates it. I am the sugar at the bottom of the English cup of tea. I am the sweet tooth, the sugar plantations that rotted generations of English children's teeth. There are thousands of others besides me that are, you know, the cup of tea itself, because they don't grow it in Lancashire. Not a single tea plantation exists in the United Kingdom, and yet that is a product that is so associated with Britain. So the idea of migration and the challenges that come with that, and the idea that we have always been here. I belong here. You know, we belong here. We have always been here. We've been here in the goods. We've been here in the sugar. We've been here in chocolate. We've been here in either way, and in physical forms as well. So that's part of the kind of mission of the Supper Club, really, is to unpick it through food and to really make us think about the way in which, you know, I love looking at the walls here because they're cocooning and they're warm, even though they're made of concrete, and it's lovely, and it lets light in. And I think Frida's design, I love the pavilion space because it shows the way art and creativity and architecture have a space in the world to help us resist what is going on out there. It's a different kind of wall than Trump's wall. It is a wall that lets light in. It is a wall that's cocooned us in this safe space and allowed us to make connections through the sambusa making. It's a really important thing to remember, whilst at the same time there are people that seek to make that not be, you know, to make us have these divisions, you know. And I think it always comes back to, for me, everything comes back to food, but it's a really important thing to remember that. And I really want to thank Amal for wanting me to come to this space and talk about Arruelo Eats, because I've been shocked by the reception that the kitchen has had. It's been, You know, people have really warmed to it. Everyone sort of loves it. Well, I hope you enjoyed the sambusa. But I want to end on something about belonging that, well, not quite end on belonging. There's a, actually, I'm going to end on positive. That's it. By Felipe Fernandez Armesto, who's a food historian. And he says, we are never more intimate with the environment than when we actually eat it. And I love that quote, because I think it's quite true. Over the table, I know some of you didn't get to try the sambusa earlier, but there's cut up watermelon, which has been covered in ancho chilies from Mexico, in homage to Frida, who designed this wonderful space. And it takes us full circle, you know, because the chilies that travelled from Mexico have influenced the global south. It's influenced my food in Somalia, and I love the idea of ending it on that note of let's eat a product from Mexico, let's have this chili, let's enjoy the fact that food does bring people together. Please help yourself to the watermelon, and I really hope that you know, we can you know, all critically think and engage with what's going on through whatever mediums we choose to do it, but to really use it as a site. For me, the food is used as a site for resistance. You know, I'm happy to share the food, I'm happy to share the techniques, the cooking, you know, whatever, with anyone, but I'm not happy to do it in an environment which is hostile to me. So, you know, I just want to reassert, I am British, I'm also Somali, and I definitely belong in this landscape.